Foul Light Shines, Chapter 2, Dangers of Gold. Salak's Party, Alvic's Snaptail. The two wizards stood far from the tent, where other spellcasters slung spells downwind at several hay targets. Scorching Ray, Alvic sighted, before the magic bolted from one of their outstretched hands. Acid Arrow, Mavic responded, as he tilted his head towards the next caster in line. Don't you think this is a little dangerous? I mean, I'm not worried about it. They put up some decent wards. We should be safe. So you agree it's dangerous? You don't put wards up if it isn't. What is Salak thinking? Mavic asked as he pulled out a cigarette and ignited it. It's flashy, all right. Maybe that's the point. Just a little bit of flair Salak didn't have to pay for. A well-timed fireball could look pretty cool. It's dangerous and dumb, Mavic said. He eyed the other spellcasters with mistrust. Well, you can sit here if you'd like and glower in their direction, but Naya left Echo with me, so I guess I've got to feed the boy. We'll chat later, Alvic said, as he motioned for Echo to follow him. Alvic was used to having Rem, whose intelligence he was entirely certain of. The fox could read, and if his vocal cords allowed it, he would have been able to speak. Heck, the little fellow could even help with alchemy, and they were working on teaching him how to activate wands. Echo, on the other hand, Alvic couldn't get a good read on. He was more intelligent than the average wolf, or at least better behaved. But he certainly wasn't doing anything other than what Naya told him to do. Thankfully, those instructions were to stay with Alvic and protect him. So the wolf did just that, with a goofy, open-mouthed smile staring up at him the whole time. It didn't take long for the trio to find the food. Several white tents were set up, with tables beneath them, all overflowing with food. Rem, can you pick things out for Echo? I didn't exactly brush up on what wolves can eat. And Naya ran off to those fighting pits before I got a chance to ask. Rem stretched slowly, uncoiled himself from his nested position between Alvic's horns. Resting on Alvic's head had become one of his favorite pastimes. The fox hopped onto its master's shoulder, and then onto the table, where it proceeded to yip at specific foods. Alvic took the hint and began to load his plate up for Echo first. Rem and himself were solid omnivores, so filling a plate for themselves wasn't hard. Once a fair bit was gathered on the dishes, the trio returned to the open air under the sun. Alvic sat down and placed the plate of meats in front of Echo. Rem and Alvic shared the second one he had assembled. It was relaxing just to rest on the grass for a moment. How long had it been since he had been able to sit upon shortcut grass and not fear an animal attack? Another tiefling made his way over toward them. Alvic stood up to greet him properly. He brushed his pants clean as he stood. The man was older than him by a decade, and wore nice, fancy clothing of a rich charcoal black. His horns were straight and jutted up like a deer from his skull. His skin was a soft red, and his eyes were tinted, almost an amber brown. A pleasure to see another tiefling here. I worried I'd be the only one. Lazan, master of the Bell Forge, he said as he extended a hand. Alvic replied curtly, as he shook his hand. So what got you the invite? I hear each of us is in some way an exceptional individual. For me, it's undoubtedly the founding of the Bell Forge, and my efforts to associate our kind with the arts. What better way than through the art of music? Alvic frowned at the man, as he pondered why he had been invited. A man of Salak's stature might have known his real name. Being a Raynor came with many perks within the magical community. There was another possibility, he thought, as he anxiously bunched up his cloak. Did you hear about Rust Hill? Alvic asked. Yes. A bunch of fire elementals ran amok in a small forge settlement. Red Banner helped evacuate, and some beastly barbarian tiefling held the line. Alvic laughed heartily. The tales really do get exaggerated. I'm a wizard, and I'd hardly call myself beastly. That was you? Lazan asked. The man took stock of the young man in front of him again. He smiled at him and gave a quick nod of his head to the boy. Yep. You're braver than you look. Thank you for your service to our kin. It was nothing, really. A child was in danger. I just did what anyone would do. You're a good chap, Alvic, the man said. Lazan clapped him one on the back. I'd be honored to host you at the Belforge. If you don't mind, I'm going to take my leave. Get myself some food, mingle with the others. I'd love to secure a few more investors. Lazan wandered off to seek out more privileged individuals, and Alvic, Echo, and Rem were left alone once more. Officially, all subjects of the Empire were equal in the eyes of the law. After the end of Agenion's war, his third Ascension decree swept away old oppressive laws against tieflings, orcs, and goblins. That said, perceptions of tieflings were slow to change. Alvic knew all too well how the prejudices lingered. Devils had run amok during the anarchy. Hell, his no-good grandfather Iridel had summoned them and cut deals with them, one of which led to Alvic's father's birth and the spawning of their bastard branch of the Raynor family. Bait have cheese knife! What problem? A sharp voice from the nearby food tables cut off Alvic's musings. A goblin appeared to be arguing with a man over cheese. Despite his grubby appearance, the goblin held two beautiful cheese knives decorated with stylized animal heads on the ends of the handles. Upon closer inspection, Alvic's breath caught in his lungs. The human man was wearing one of the more casual uniforms of the Gold Banner Army. Stylish black slacks, a black jacket with bright golden trim, an unmistakable armband prominently displayed for all to see. Echo, Rem, stay here, Alvic commanded, as he walked briskly over to the pair. Echo moved to follow, but Rem gently bit his tail and tugged him back. You've not answered my question yet. Who are you, and how did you come to be here? Bait have cheese knife. What problem? The goblin repeated, as he tried to push past the man to acquire some cheese. He's clearly a guest, Alvic said as he arrived behind the goblin. And you are? Alvic Snaptail, Abjurer. He replied as he produced a bronze medallion from his coat and displayed it like a badge. The man's eyes narrowed as he assessed Alvic. Do you know this goblin? He asked. Bait want cheese. Cheese for guests. Bait guest. No, but presumably he had to have come through security like the rest of us. It might be faster to ask the front guard. I'm sure they'll remember the goblin, Alvic replied. What bait do to get cheese? The man looked at the pair with distrust or disgust. It was hard to tell which emotion was behind the sneer. Alvic had been warned many times about dealing with the Gold Banner. They were granted immense power, with very little oversight. There were rumors that they could arrest and execute simply on gossip. Their crusade against threats to the throne meant that all tieflings were viewed with an extra layer of scrutiny. The man stepped back, allowing the goblin to rush the table and stab at the cheese. He took a clump of cheddar and eagerly licked it off his blade, before going for another. The Gold Banner agent stepped forward again. You will use a plate, the agent insisted. But bait have cheese knife. Knife better than dumb plate. Friend, I really would recommend using a plate, Alvic said to the goblin. You can load it as high as you want with cheese, but please humor me and use a plate. Ugh, you boring. Remind me of Ilaria. Use plate, bait. Don't go boom at party, bait. Mind your manners, bait. He begrudgingly took a plate and used the serving utensils to fill it as high as possible before he scampered off a few feet and used cheese knives to eat. He licked the knife clean between each bite. I'll be checking with the front guards now, the Gold Banner agent said, before walking briskly away from the food tables. Alvic let out a nervous sigh. He didn't want to be known by the Gold Banner Army. It was best to stay as far away from them as possible. It wasn't wise for him to have intervened, but it wasn't right to do nothing. He clutched at his small necklace, a simple hammer pendant hanging by a smooth leather cord. Gods help him. Salak's party. Mavic. Alvic was taking forever. Mavic glanced down at Pecora, sitting patiently by his feet. Perhaps he should begin doing routine maintenance. Finding a quiet and safe space to work on her here would be easier than the middle of the woods. Mavic was sick of wandering through the wilds, but grateful for the company, even if Naya's spirituality was spiritual bullshit. Sure, the spirits existed, but why would he pray to something so volatile? Meanwhile, the gods were right there, and far more interested in cultivating a following. Mortal opinion mattered to gods. Spirits just did whatever the hell spirits did. "What do you make of this?" a man said as he approached Mavic, who stood beside the magic tents. A quick glance over the man revealed him to be Gold Banner Army. Mavic shrugged in response. He'd heard rumors that some of the Gold Banner wore masks to obscure their identities, but he'd never confirmed that. This man didn't have a mask. His hair was brown and thin, and his skin was clammy and sunken. Mavic knew the work must be challenging, but this man looked downright sickly up close. "It's irresponsible, dangerous, and dumb," Mavic replied coolly. He had no opinion on the Gold Banner. They were a thing that existed, and his life ran pretty far away from their concerns. The man nodded in agreement. There was something off about him. While he gazed at Mavic, it was less that he made eye contact, and more like he was looking through him. It gave Mavic the chills. Yes, Saloct encourages this sort of play, but it is unpredictable. It is good that he has set up sufficient defenses this year. Seeing someone watching the festivities rather than participating in them is even more impressive. Forgive me for asking, but are you perhaps an artificer? Mavic shuffled through his pockets and produced his bronze badge, similar to Alvic's. Both were cast in bronze, with the name of the institution they attended carved into it. But Mavic's looked more like a cog, with tooth-like edges. I see. What are your views on Alusai? The man asked, watching him closely. Mavic let out a big sigh. How could one of the brightest minds of artificy be such an idiot when it came to choosing sides? His designs were fascinating, and I'd love to study his work, but I'm not interested in why he didn't take up Agenion's first amnesty, Mavic replied, attempting to thread the needle between truth and lie. Alusai wasn't just good. He was downright brilliant. His creations revolutionized the field of artificy. Hell, much of Pecora's designs were only possible by standing on the shoulders of giants, Alusai in particular. A very wise take. There is much to be learned from studying the man's work, and nothing to be learned from studying his ideologies. Mavic took another drag off the cigarette, and faced back down towards the drunken spellcasting celebrants. "Fireball," he muttered, continuing the game he'd been playing with Alvic. "Excuse me," the Gold Manor agent asked. "Sorry, another wizard and I were playing a game. Guess which spell they cast. He was ahead, but if he doesn't return soon, I think I'm going to win by default." The man, a good 20 or 30 years Mavic senior, opened his mouth to speak. A loud boom echoed through the grounds as brilliant vermilion flames sprouted through the sky, followed by a shower of blue sparks and green wisps of flame. "Praise to the Father of Creation and Father of Destruction," shouted a wild-looking halfling, with a mop of hair framing her head like a lion's mane made of fire, with marigold flowers braided into it. A sudden hiss caught Mavic off guard, and he shuffled to the side, turning to face the Gold Banner Army agent. "Are you okay?" Mavic asked. The man proceeded to cough a few times into his hand. "Yes, the smoke is just getting to me," he said as he pointed at Mavic's cigarette. "I never could stand them." Oh, sorry, I'll put it out. Didn't mean to disrespect," Mavic said as he passed the lit cigarette to Pecora, who promptly squashed the lit end with her metal paws. "It's all right. I have other business to attend to. If you'll excuse me," the man said, before he bowed and walked towards the manor. "What was that about, Pecora?" he asked down to his metallic companion. 2 little beeps came from her in response. "I didn't imagine that, did I?" Another beep from Pecora affirmed that he had heard the man hiss. "Yeah, it was fucking weird." Salok's party, Naya. Hope blistered bright as the sun in Naya. The sky filled with wild colors of fire, and the name thundered over the crowd. Alvik and Mavic weren't followers of the spirits. They wanted to go to her home and get samples to study what had happened to her village. She was grateful for whatever help they might provide. But if this was due to the spirits, then who could say it if arcane magic could even help? They had been traveling for weeks, and she had only seen a handful of people honoring the spirits. She raced from the fighting pits towards the halfling woman with messy red hair. "Excuse me," she said as she neared the woman. Up close, she could see that she was barefoot, and her clothing was clean but simple cloth with lots of charms and talismans scattered over it. Earthen colors, bright red berries, and sea glass stones. "Yes, child," the woman asked as she greeted her with a wide, bright smile. "You mentioned you worshipped the spirits?" "Yes, and we should all worship them and honor the old accords. I need help. My village, the people were all turned into plants," Naya pleaded. "Slow down, child. We haven't even exchanged names yet. I'm Lena, and you are?" "Naya, from Lomatoti. It's a pleasure to meet you," Naya said as she dipped into a slight bow. "The whole village turned to plants. How did you escape this fate?" Naya frowned. Her memories of it were still very hazy. She had been asleep in bed. The next thing she knew, she was deep in the forest. The trauma of seeing her family and her friends turned into plants had also not helped cement the memories of that night in her skull. Alvik had suggested they consult an enchanter. Perhaps they could help untangle the emotions and help paint a clearer picture of what had happened to her. "I went to bed and I woke up in the woods with a strong urge to keep walking." The halfling smiled, wrinkles crossing her brow. "It sounds to me as if Enerjut was looking after you, attempting to protect you from whatever was afoot. I wish I could tell you why she could only save you." Naya frowned. She had thought as much herself. Enerjut was one of the three sisters. They were some of the closest spirits to mortals. "Is it possible to communicate with them?" Naya asked. "Perhaps, but the spirits have trouble communicating with mortals, especially ancient and mighty spirits like the three sisters. Perhaps you should try to seek out the children of Acrixie instead. They are tree spirits who live all over the Empire. They are much closer to mortals and may be able to give you information directly. Speaking with the spirits is far more art than it is science." "Do you know where any of them are?" "No. The last I heard, there was one somewhere near the city of Shah Lyal. Beyond that, I do not know where they make their homes. I wish you the best of luck in finding them. May they be able to shed some light on whatever has happened, and if anything can be done about it." She pulled a metal canister from a satchel and walked away, shaking it as she went. Seeds fell from it onto the ground. A parting gift for Salokt. His manners flora is too boring. Naya liked this one quite a bit. A crowd had begun to gather in front of the stage. It was time to find Alvik and Mavic and find some seats.